All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. And I hope you are buckled in because this will possibly be the longest video that I have done on my channel for DC News because we have a lot to cover. I thought about doing 2 videos, but I don't like to waste people's time, and I'm going to just give it all to you in this video. So we're going to have the traditional update, but sprinkled throughout, we're going to talk about James Gunn and his racism problem and also his narcissism. And so I thought about doing a James Gunn specific video, but I'm just going to do it part of this update so you guys don't have to watch 2 separate videos. And when you leave the comments, tell me whether you would have preferred me to do this as 2 separate videos or just 1 video, and I will definitely take that into consideration moving forward. I wish I could get into the studio every day to give you guys updates. That's not always possible. Yesterday was PT day, and it was a miserable one. And so I was not able to get in here and do my update. And that news continues to pile up. And so we do have a lot to cover. Now, if you're new here, and this is your first time, and you like the video at the end, please take the time to like the video. Think about subscribing. I love all of the new the new subscribers. I love all of my continuing watchers. And if you're an old watcher and you've been watching my channel for a long time now, what are you waiting? Subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when I do have new videos go up. But we better get started because this is going to be a long one, so you better buckle up. So first up today, it talks about Clayface and how Clayface, according to James Gunn, this film is going to have a lot of practical effects, which is cool up to a point, but it is Clayface, and you don't want it all to be practical effects, otherwise that will not work for a character like this. But James Gunn says, some dailies I've seen, it's just this old school body horror visual effects. It's so cool, which is pretty neat. I hope they're able to do a mix of both and make it believable because at the end of the day, it is Clayface and you don't want to cheapen the character by not portraying the character correctly. So there is going to have to be a certain amount of CGI to make this work. Also, James Gunn has confirmed that David Corenswet will not appear in Peacemaker Season 2. In fact, David was very upset that Nick got to be on the show, and he didn't. It just didn't work. I will tell you what probably the big issue with this was. Now, I'm thinking about this from looking at this from the outside in. James Gunn has been really pushing this show, and this is going to tie into his narcissism that I'm going to talk about later. If you go to his Twitter page, it's nothing but Peacemaker after Peacemaker after Peacemaker after Peacemaker. He won't stop talking about Peacemaker. And when it came to, all the wins that the Penguin got, he did one single post, and it wasn't even a normal post. It was a story that dropped off after 24 hours. And so he is all about himself. And in regards to David Corenswet not coming back as Superman for Peacemaker Season 2, I bet it's because of backlash, because he really is touting this show as a direct sequel to Superman, and he's also teasing that these last couple of episodes that are going to be coming up are going to tie directly into where the DCU is going as a whole. And they probably don't want Superman in it because they don't want people to start complaining that they're forced, they want kids to watch it. And I'm guessing that's where this is going. How about we not make disgusting materials that kids can't watch if you really want to make this a connected universe? How about doing that instead? And on that note, one of the things that people talked about, which was very interesting when I talked about the streaming numbers on Superman the other day, is you can't make this stuff up. The mental gymnastics that people do. People got on my case saying that this anime movie that beat out Superman, that anime is huge amongst young kids and that Superman is for older people. A superhero for older people. That's what they said. A bunch of people made that comment in my video and on X. Well, if that's the case, why did they target Superman for kids? Explain that. It doesn't make sense. Don't you think if you want to make a successful film, you're going to cater to your audience? So that comment has no validity to it. Also, there are reports now, this was reported by comingsoon.net, that Henry Cavill actually ended up leaving The Witcher, not because he had creative differences with those people doing the show, but because he was coming back for Superman. And that comes from the showrunner itself from The Witcher. He said, well, I think it might be a she, as a matter of fact. I don't remember. But the showrunner came out and said this. Said that's the real reason he left is because he wanted to go be Superman. And think about that. That's about the time where Black Adam came out and the studio had him announce he was coming back as Superman, only to not sign him on a contract and then pull the rug out from underneath him. How terrible is that? So, I posted in one of my previous videos about this appearance of Lex on Peacemaker. I'm not watching the show, and I didn't know what this actual scene contained in it, and it was disgusting. And Nicholas Hoult came out, and he talked about being goofy in the show, and his line was delivered so dry, and it was a disgusting comment about sexual things that the inmates are doing to each other in the show. And this is what James Gunn finds funny. Think about that. That's what he finds funny. But it's not. I actually saw the scene. Somebody posted it on X. It wasn't funny. But Nicholas Hoult said being goofy is no threat. And that's why he decided to do it. He didn't see it as a threat to his career or to the character. And I would disagree. I think it's disgusting. And again, it just shows you how depraved James Gunn is with all of this stuff. It's just not becoming of the DC brand. It's not funny. It's not goofy. It shouldn't even be in there. DCU Alert posted this, and I could totally see this happening. It says, should Sydney Sweeney be cast as Power Girl in the DCU? If you want to make money, this would be a perfect casting. Okay, if you're at all familiar with this character, there's a picture of this character on the right. That's being generous, actually, compared to what she looks like in the comics. And so, yes, Sydney Sweeney could absolutely play this character. I'm not sure about her acting abilities, but she is pretty popular right now. So, in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, James Gunn came out and said that G.I. Robot is actually coming into live action, but not necessarily in Peacemaker Season 2. With it being a robot, he could be back either with Sergeant Rock. He could come back in many different ways because he is a robot. He could still be active, in this time period. And if you're watching, Creature Commandos, that is definitely the case. And so this absolutely, there's many different ways in which he could incorporate this character. Now, going to the pictures posted this, and this is one of the things that really, I made a comment about this, not understanding that this was Earth X. In fact, I didn't even know that there was a racist Earth in DC Comics. I stick strictly to mainly Batman stuff, some Superman stuff, a little bit of Wonder Woman and some Green Lantern, but I have never read anything that had this Earth X in it, where there are racists there. But James Gunn had this scene at the end where I forget her name. It's Waller's daughter is in this Earth, and a bunch of white people start chasing her down. And going to the pictures posted just days after Charlie Kirk was murdered, DC and Warner Brothers released a trailer for Peacemaker featuring a sniper. Now they are promoting the show by implying America is literally Hitler. These people will never learn. DC official and Warner Brothers should be ashamed. And they should. I actually posted about this on X, and James Gunn actually came out, and you'll see in a screen grab that I have coming up later in the update today, you're going to see what his response was to this, and I think it's actually pretty disgusting, but we're also going to see what other people said about this particular scene. Other channels. So here's more about Clayface, and that's actually a pretty cool picture there, but it says, James Gunn reveals Clayface features a lot of amazing practical effects. The exact quote is, there's a lot of amazing practical effects in Clayface, so much. Oh my gosh, there are some days I'm watching dailies. It's just this old school body horror visual effects, and it's so cool. So it's just an extension of the quote that I already talked about, and he was talking about it in this interview. But again, I go back to what I said before, it can't all be practical effects for this character. James Gunn was asked about the Man of Tomorrow script photo that he teased for the script, and whether he understood whether it was going to point towards Brainiac or not. James Gunn's direct quote, "Of course, I wasn't unaware that when I posted the cover of the script, that there was going to be discussion around that particular topic, but I think we'll hold off from what exactly is happening." So he's not denying that Brainiac is going to be in there, and he knew people were going to talk about Brainiac by posting it. So we will see what happens with that script. There's been a lot of talk about Batman, the Brave and the Bold, and Damian Wayne. James Gunn says plenty of things are in flex on Batman, the Brave and the Bold. He also gave an update on when we can expect to see this particular film. James Gunn also says that he has major plans for Mr. Terrific. You know what? Maybe he should have been used in Peacemaker instead of, Rick Flag going to see, Lex Luthor and talking about the disgusting things they talked about. Maybe he should have used Mr. Terrific instead. That actually would have made more sense. So Starlight on X posted this. We're going to see what David Perez, Movie Talk Now, posted his response to this. And I'm totally in agreement with David Perez on this. Like, I was shocked at some of the comments and some of the channels posting about this. So Starlight posted on X, "Honestly effing insane to see James Gunn writing a Nazi Earth in Peacemaker, as this shit is literally happening live in America. Where in the world do they live in America where this is happening? Because I don't see anywhere in this country where people are acting as Nazis, because it's not true. You are safer as a person of color in this country than you have ever been." So this is a straight up lie. But this, I am telling you right now, James Gunn has a problem talking about Nazis and white supremacy. He did it in Creature Commandos. He's doing it here. It is the lowest fruit that you could be going after when you're trying to tell a story. And now you got people coming out claiming that that's the way America is, and it is not. Here's what David Perez had to say. "Marvel has real zombies, and DC has these zombies. I mean, you have to be brain dead to think you live in a Nazi regime in a country where you're allowed to call them a Nazi regime, right?" And he's making that exact point. The fact that these people can come out and make these claims shows that you're not living in Nazi Germany here in America. It's not what is happening. Literally, it's not what is happening. But this wasn't the only channel to jump on that bandwagon. Here we go. Home of DCU, who has also made anti-Semitic comments on his Home of DCU in the past, posted that same picture and said how living in America today is like. Again, bullshit. I'm calling it right now. That is utter bullshit. It is not true. That is not what America is like. If you're a person of color, you are safer today than you have ever been, ever in history in America. So this is a straight up lie. And then this individual who owns this channel went on to say that we're in the beginning stages of what happened in Nazi Germany. No, we are not. It's stuff like that. It's this kind of rhetoric that got Charlie Kirk killed. It's not true. Also, James Gunn reaffirms that the Enchantress from the DCU is not the same as DCEU. Our June Moon still has powers, and Rick Flag betrays her. It's not a great love story like in David Ayer's movie. No, because he doesn't want to do anything that has to do with David Ayer. He'd rather push that to the side and claim it's his own thing. So he's picking and choosing what he wants to bring into the DCU. Again, the worst thing you could possibly do. Christopher Nolan says his favorite Zack Snyder scene is from Man of Steel, Kevin Costner's conversation with young Clark about his origins. Zack is known for his facility with iconic image making, but his casting instincts are second to none. Guys, we gave up greatness. Greatness. David Ayer, Patty Jenkins, Christopher Nolan, Zack Snyder. all delivered amazing filmmaking, even James Wan, compared to what James Gunn is giving us. We traded all of that for this singular vision under James Gunn. Asinine. Now, I laughed when I saw this. Literally, this made me just about choke. James Gunn says they might focus on DC movies being about major known characters rather than unknowns. I'm probably not going to do certain movies with characters who audiences don't know. It's harder to get people into the theater for that kind of a thing. This comes from Deadline. You think? That was my post on X. I said, you think? You think? It doesn't take a genius to understand this. It's why Marvel is struggling. They're not focused on their main characters. I mean, think about when we got a Hulk movie, like a full-on Hulk movie. They haven't even done one with the guy who's playing Bruce Banner. They haven't even done one with him. Think about that. It's because these companies are not focused on their main characters. And even when James Gunn did Superman, he brought in a bunch of unknown characters. Mr. Terrific is not super well known. I'm telling you, they're bringing in characters that shouldn't be on the screen. And I'm not saying Mr. Terrific should be on screen, but maybe not in the first Superman movie. He's definitely more well known than some other characters. But this is why Creature Commandos and Peacemaker should have never been made. People are not watching those programs. They're just not. Now, this cracked me up. James Gunn has indicated that the Brave and the Bold movie is set to release in 2028 or 2029. Definitely before 2030. Holy crap, he's got a 4-year time period to work with here. He's got 4 years to work with, which means he can tinker around with this for the next 2 years. There is no direct release date on this. There is no script. They're talking about it. They're working on it, but there is nothing definitive with this yet. And just think about all the people. You know, in my last video, I talked about how all of these actors, James Gunn claimed all these actors wanted to be Batman. And I just don't believe it. Obviously, there's a reason why Ben Affleck saw what they were doing and said, yeah, I don't want to be any part of this. And we can glean that from the interview that he did. Like, it's very obvious. He flat out said, I don't want to do what James Gunn is doing. He does not like the direction of what James Gunn is doing. And he still gave kudos to James, saying, James, we'll do a great job at what he's doing, but I don't want to be a part of that. Not in the way they're doing it, is what he said. This is another one of those movies that could just end up getting canceled, guys. It could just end up getting canceled, because I bet they're going to wait until after the release of the Batman 2 to say anything, because if the Batman 2 ends up being a bigger success, they may just scrap everything James Gunn is doing anyway, and his contract is up next year altogether. So DCU Updates posted, James Gunn confirms Brave and the Bold will at least release before 2030 to 2031. James, I just laugh at this. It's just, the whole thing is asinine. Oh, maybe I didn't cover it, because here's the quote about James Gunn. James Gunn says many big actors want to play the Caped Crusader in the upcoming film Batman the Brave and the Bold. Plenty of things are in flux on what his situation is with his parentage, and all that stuff. So I wouldn't take any of it. Yeah, I mean, the actor who wants to, listen. First of all, I can't tell you the amount of big actors that have told me they want to be Batman. Sure, until they see what he's doing. Until they see what they're doing. You think they messed up Superman, just wait until we get to Batman. Also, this is very encouraging. Colin Farrell on the Batman 2. I've got an even smaller role in this one, but I'm okay with that. I've read the script from start to finish, and I can't say much about it. But it's deeper, scarier, and the stakes are bigger. I'm really excited to see it. That is very encouraging. And he's happy with this because he was too much in makeup for that and for the Penguin, and he needed a break, but he's still a big part of the story. And so he has to be in it. But it has been confirmed that Sophia is not going to be in it. And it looks like Catwoman's not going to be really a part of it either. But we'll have to wait and see when the movie actually starts filming. Also, it was made canon in the last episode of Peacemaker that Spider-Man is now officially a part of the DCU canon in the DCU. I guess he was referenced in episode 6 of Peacemaker. So they're trying to push for this. They're going to try to push for this DC Marvel crossover. And if they tried to do it now, it would be a freaking disaster. It would be a disaster. But you know that's what they're trying to do. They think it's going to make them $1 bazillion. Not if you can't get people to get interested. Spider-Man's always going to make money. So is Batman. These other characters, not so much. So here's the big news that I talked about in my last video. The DC Studio Superman, since premiering on HBO Max on September 19th, has raked up 13 million global viewers. That's in 10 days. HBO Max reports that the film had the largest 10-day audience for a pay-one film since December of 2023 when Barbie played. But they didn't say it overtook Barbie, just since Barbie. I thought this was freaking hilarious. I had to share this. This is from Cinemagic. It said, it's so badass when people stand in front of shit they've destroyed. For those who are just listening, it shows Logan with an explosion in the back. It shows Heath Ledger's Joker with the hospital exploding. It shows Iron Man with something exploding in the background. And it shows James Gunn in front of his Superman logo. That's pretty dang funny. Now, Fandom Wire posted this article. It says, death blow to James Gunn's DCU. Has Demon Slayer Infinity Castle surpassed Superman at the box office? Demon Slayer Infinity Castle has knocked down 2025 movies left and right, and now it might be threatening the reign of James Gunn's Superman. And it did. It surpassed it. And they're calling it a death blow. Superman was not as popular as the studio needed it to be. Now, James Gunn was in GQ and did an interview, and he talked about the upcoming DCU. He said, right now, there's actually 2 really cool film scripts that I'm hoping to take to the next level that we have general plans for. And I'm excited about both of those. And then I'm excited about one TV project in particular. I don't know why we're not green-lighted on that already. It's just figuring out the budget. So there's a couple of things that are very present that I'm excited about. Dealing with getting Supergirl into shape, all these other things, okay? So I'm guessing that the TV show he's probably talking about is going to be The Authority. There's still more talk of that, and he has talked about how that is still part of the plan at some point. Whether it's a TV show or a movie, nobody knows, but a lot of people are assuming that's what the TV show is going to be. Now, this I'm not happy about, unless they keep it separate from the DCU. It says, Mr. Miracle animated series will feature Darkseid, Highfather, Light Tray, Orion, and Funky Flashman. Confirmed plot points include Scott Free's infection by the anti-life equation and his suicide attempt. Definitely sounds like it's not going to be for kids. And I think it's ridiculous that we're going to get Darkseid in a cartoon. James Gunn was asked if Peacemaker Season 2 Episode 8 will tease where the DCU is going. James Gunn said more than a tease. So he's flat out telling us that it is going to be integral into where the DCU is headed. But yet you don't have to watch it to understand what's going on, but they're teasing it as it's a big thing that's going to explain where the DCU is going. Not good. Not good in the messaging. Now, Raw Talks, part of the Lethal Geeks, posted this, and this was brilliant. It said 2 more comic book films that outperformed Superman's streaming debut numbers. Deadpool and Wolverine's Disney Plus debut got over 5 million more viewers. And if you remember some of the people that were saying, well, the reason Superman didn't get more than 13 million views is because it was already a movie that had been released in theaters. Well, Deadpool and Wolverine made well over $1 billion and still got more viewers when it was released on streaming. He goes on to say, and here's an interesting fact. Wonder Woman 1984 also outperformed Superman debut streaming numbers with almost 2 million more views. Now, Wonder Woman 1984 was a new movie. It was day and date with the theater, but it still got more views. Superman is not the performer they're telling you it is. All right, so here's a big part of what I wanted to talk about today with James Gunn and his narcissism. James Gunn on Lanterns and Man of Tomorrow. Watching episodes of Lanterns, okay, this is what James Gunn said. Watching episodes of Lanterns, that's coming along well. So it's really just dealing a little bit with everything, and then mostly Man of Tomorrow. That's the biggest thing for me. I mean, we go into production in April. That's what James Gunn is concerned with. James Gunn is about James Gunn. He is not paying attention to these other properties that are under DC. We've heard next to nothing in regards to Lanterns. We're getting little bits of Clayface. There's been virtually nothing on Supergirl. Think about that. And now he's already hyping up. He's done more hyping up of Man of Tomorrow than he has with Supergirl. Because James Gunn is all about James Gunn. And we're going to see a post that I did on X here in a few minutes. And I'm going to want people to remember that post. Also, while I'm going back through and reading Scott Snyder's run on Batman, I came across this page, and this has Batman the Animated Series written all over it. Now, I did ask Scott Snyder on X whether this was an homage to Batman the Animated Series, but he hasn't responded yet. But I'm very curious, because this does remind me very much of the opening of Batman the Animated Series. What do you guys think? So here's what James Gunn had to say in regards to that Peacemaker scene, because it did have a lot of people talking. It said, James Gunn on Peacemaker Episode 6. I have a few racists that have called me polarizing, but I'm okay with being polarizing and letting racists fall to the wayside. People have loved this episode the most, so it's exciting. So he's saying anybody that is criticizing him for that scene is a racist. He's flat out coming out and saying that those people who have a problem with this are racists. And this is exactly what I've seen from my criticism of this as well. People are trying to call me a racist because I'm pointing it out. No. Why does James Gunn keep putting racists in his content? What's really going on with that? Why does he have to do it in Creature Commandos? Why is he doing it here? What's the deal? It's not that other people are being racists. It's more like James Gunn has a problem with race. It's like he's stoking the flames. It's so freaking bizarre. All right, so let's take a look at a couple things here on X. First of all, we got Jorge Jimenez, who was talking about Batman issue number 2 that came out today. And I did end up picking up the Jim Lee cover as well as the regular cover, which is over here on the right-hand side. They had a foil cover. They had a couple of other things as well. And so a lot of people were excited for this. If you haven't checked it out yet, definitely go check it out. Oh, looks like they did one with Robin coming in like they did in episode 1 or the first issue as well. But my comic shop talked about only they got a couple, and those were sold out immediately. But I like the one on the right, and I do like the Jim Lee cover. Also, I posted about James Gunn talking about Lanterns in Man of Tomorrow, and I said Gunn is all about Gunn. Really nothing on Lanterns or Supergirl. It's got to be about him. And then I did a post that I told everybody really needs to highlight. And let's look at this. This is the post that I did. And I told people, mark this post. Mark it for the future. Because we're going to see 2 years from now where this falls. I said, mark this post. I guarantee you when Lanterns is released, James Gunn will barely talk about it. Same with Clayface and Supergirl. James Gunn is a narcissist and all about himself. He will start talking all about Man of Tomorrow. He couldn't give 2 shits when Penguin was released and won all of those awards. Go to his page and see how many posts he has about Peacemaker. He is the CEO of DC Studios and certainly does not act like it. And I stand by that. Let's go see. As a matter of fact, while I've got you guys here, let's go see. All right, so here we are on James Gunn page. Peacemaker. 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 Oh, can you guess it? Peacemaker. Oh, Peacemaker again. Peacemaker. 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 Little bit of Superman. Peacemaker. Peacemaker. Man of Tomorrow. Talking about Peacemaker. Little bit about the Lego game on Batman Day. Superman. Peacemaker. 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 Superman. Peacemaker. You notice how there's no post in here in regards to Supergirl? There's no posts in regards to Lanterns. There's no posts in regards to Clayface. No posts in regards to Penguin on here. The only thing James Gunn is promoting on his page are his projects. Does that seem like the CEO to you? It certainly does not to me. All right, everybody, I told you it was going to be a big update today, and it was. And I appreciate you guys sticking out to the end here. What do you think about James Gunn talking about race, Nazis, and, white nationalists in his projects and how that's his go-to? What do you think about him only promoting his stuff? And where do you think this is all headed? Do you think that's a good look for the CEO of DC Studios? I certainly don't think it is. And I am not going to stop criticizing him for his job as a CEO because he's not acting like he's in charge of all this stuff. He's all about himself. You cannot deny that he is a narcissist. All right, guys, there's my update for the day. I do appreciate the support. We will see you on the next video.